Hello, it's David at DCES UK, and this is a very exciting video because unlike the usual consumer unit changes, which everyone's done, it's all getting a bit boring now. I've got a celebrity electrician joining me on site for a bit of a cool lab. Oh yes, exciting stuff, but who could it be? I don't know. It could be perhaps that electrical royalty like that Tom Nagy fellow I've never actually met in real life, or maybe Chris at CJR, that'd be exciting, or maybe one of the female electricians. We've got Amy, of course, who I've met before. We've got Kimmy the Sparks. It'd be good to work with her, wouldn't it? There's right, James? There's a prick Nick Bundy, of course, but I don't think it's going to be him. There's also John Ward. John Ward would be a good one, wouldn't he? I'll tell you what, Linda, who works with us, she would absolutely flick her bean off at John Ward. She's a big fan of his. Should be here any minute, whoever he is. Oh, it's you, isn't it, James? Yeah. No, how disappointing.
Here's James Beck. Beck. Here's James Beck. Beck. Here's James Beck. Beck. Here's James Beck. Beck. Here's James Beck.
What the hell just happened there?
I'm a little bit curious about that myself, actually, James. I'm sorry about that, but let's get on with the job.
Yeah.
The lady of the house.
Hello.
And the lady visiting the house. Well, tell us what happened here, young Katie.
So we had a plug that was sparking, so I called out an emergency electrician, and turned up, was in the house for about 5 minutes, unscrewed the plug, screwed it back in, said that it would be fine, but it wasn't. It still carried on sparking. But while he was here, I mentioned that we wanted to check the electrics in the house, and he said, "Oh, looks like you could do with a total rewire."
The total rewire brigade, they can see that by eye, which is fine, I suppose, if you've got rubber cabling, but
yeah, you don't usually pick that up within a short period of time, though, do you?
No, absolutely. So, how long have you lived here? Have you not long moved in?
I think we've been here about 4 years now.
Oh, right, a fair while, but it's obviously, I think the better half mentioned it was perhaps a rental in the past, because you've got locks on the doors upstairs.
Yes.
Bit weird.
All sorts of strange alterations have been made to the house, and sockets moved around to weird places and things.
Should we have a look at the source of the beast, Mr. Beck?
There we go.
Overhead supply. It's been PME'd, hasn't it? It's not on a TT.
Yeah, there's a bit of a
16mm tails, 6mm main earth, and obviously a 16th edition non-RCD, but a 60898 board, not a 3871. So we're talking late 90s, do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But it's obviously PVC cabling, isn't it? It's not rubber wiring. You wouldn't look at that and say, well, your whole house needs a rewire. You'd say, perhaps you need modernisation of the source.
Maybe a tidy up as well, especially in there.
So you see, obviously this is out of my area. So where are we, James? We're over in Manchester, which is why James is here, of course. And I asked you, didn't I, James, to come and take a look at this, to perhaps do any ICR, and you told me to stick it up my arse. Is that right? I think that's the words.
I said I was recovering from surgery, but you took it as that.
No, I've got the email here, mate. It literally says you can stick it up your arse. You prick, Sabri. So it is there in writing. But we had South Mank Electrical come in, and you found them all right, didn't you?
Yeah, they were great. Yeah.
There you go. Praise indeed. South Mank Electrical, we can recommend. They won't let you down, unlike James Beck. South Mankers, they ain't wankers. You can stick that on your website, lads. I won't ask for any kind of royalty for that tagline if you want to use it in your information. Your dodgy guy, your guy who turned up, didn't fix the fault, gave you duff advice. What did he say about this rewire?
He
they give you an indication as to the work involved or the pricing or
Yeah,
whatever?
he said he'd need us out the house, so if we went away for a couple of days, and he and a team would come in and do the whole thing, and if we paid in cash, that it would be cheaper.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and that it would
Cash, no
be quite
paperwork,
messy.
defraud HMRC. Yeah, that's always a. Now I
No
look.
paperwork, probably no cert as well.
Yeah, and probably not a high standard of work. I did actually look this company up. Did you get them from Checkatrade?
I did, yes.
Yeah, you know, I
To
don't
be
like
fair,
Checkatrade.
he was. I called up about 5 numbers from Checkatrade, and he was the only person that came round to,
Yeah,
well,
so
supposedly to help us.
see, I looked this guy up, and I'm not going to mention any names, of course, but he was name dropping NIC. He's not NIC. He had the NIC logo on his Checkatrade page, which shows the level of checks Checkatrade put in. I did notice this was a few weeks ago. This was back in the summer, wasn't it?
Yes.
I did notice before I came out here. I did look him up again. Looks like he's actually left Checkatrade or been booted off. He's still got an entry there, but the NIC logo is gone. And it does say on Checkatrade no longer a member, so I don't know what that means, whether this is an occasion where Checkatrade actually thought, you know what, this guy's even too dodgy for us, and booted
Maybe
him
they've
off.
checked their trade, yeah.
Yes, so yes, and yet another Checkatrade wanker, but or not so much anymore, just a wanker now.
You do see these though, don't you? People think that because they're affiliated with a Checkatrade, it automatically guarantees quality or...
Well, because they use words like checked, vetted, reputable, rated. So yes, as far as the public are concerned, they ought to be all these things. But it's so easy to appear on these sites claiming false accreditations because their checks just don't extend that far, do they?
No, I think, well, word of mouth is best. Obviously, you tried that approach with maybe myself.
And got let down.
Yeah, well, and but I think that...
I have a reputable company in the area now.
Yeah. But word of mouth is going to be the best way, I find, and obviously customers that you've used before, they'll pass you on to other new customers that you've not seen and not worked for. But I don't know, it's using a blind trade who's just going to walk in and promise you everything based on the fact that you've gone down the kind of correct route. You've gone to Checkatrade or something like that. It doesn't always work.
And cash as well, always an alarm bell.
Well, that's the thing. If someone's going to
changing a light on the ceiling or something, yeah, you might take cash.
Yeah, a little job.
But not a rewire, for goodness sake. Because if someone runs away with your cash, what are you going to do? It's difficult to complain because the assumption is going to be you're paying cash to defraud HMRC half the time anyway. Especially if they've said, oh, we'll do it cheaper for cash or whatever. Yeah, it's all very dodgy. Anyway, we do have a couple of jobettes to do here today, don't we, Mr. Beck? Because although
we do have the EICR that
the main thing that the South Manc chaps found was the usual stuff, wasn't it? Lack of RCD protection and non-fire rated downlights. Yeah, problems with the IP rating of the board. It's all a bit shonky up there, isn't it? So we are going to put a new board in, and we are going to change the downlights. We are going to put a new outside light up and just tick off various things that South Manc found needed to be ticked off.
Yeah. Great.
Which would be interesting, or not. You're not very interested, are you, Kate?
No,
already
not
this
at
is
all.
boring the hell out
I
of
just
me.
wanted to do it and then my house to be a bit safer.
Marvellous. Okay,
Yeah.
well, let's do that. At the end of it, we just have to... Obviously, we're going to kick you lot out, which is very kind of used to vacate the place and leave James and I to run around making a mess, chopping up the ceiling and that sort of stuff today. Sorry about that. At the end of it, we will need to sort of get access to places to take some test readings, so we'll just need to get to the various corners, the various nooks and crannies, if we may.
Do you need to go in the bedrooms at all?
We probably will need to access all areas.
That's fine. There is in the master bedroom, there's a poorly puppy, I'm afraid. Our pet Pooch has got a bit of a dicky tummy.
We have to avoid the diuretic dog.
Yeah.
But
yeah, he shouldn't bother you. But yeah, just.
All right. Is he going to be alright up there while you're out and we're...
Well, I hope so.
Well, he'll have to be. If there's anything needed in the bedroom, James, you're the man for it.
I've stood on dog poo in people's houses before.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's the last thing I want to do.
Well, it may happen again today. Sorry, Katie.
Well, I seriously hope not.
Supply seal's been cut probably when this board went in. Notice it's 16mm tails, 6mm earthing. We've actually got Dino coming in. James made Dino to come and do a fuse pull for us, so we'll verify what fuse that is. If it's a 60 amp, 60 to 80 amp, those 16mm tails will be just fine. We don't need to worry about them. Otherwise, we might look at changing them out to 25s. They might just be okay as they are, but we'll see. Despite the horrible appearance of them. What else can we say about this? It's a brand new smart meter. It's got a 2020 date on it. We've got this circuit's off at the moment. It only does the outside light, which is a shonky fucking thing. I'm thinking what I might do, because the outside light just goes through a big hole in the wall there, is combine the outside light with the ordinary lighting circuit so they're both set on one RCBO, because there's just no point having an RCBO just for an outside light.
No. Combine that with the lamp.
I mean, to be honest, you could probably run it on a breaker, couldn't you? It's not like it's serving socket outlet, and it's high up, and it's clip direct, it's not buried in walls, so there's no reason why we couldn't just stick that on a 6 amp MCB if we wanted to. But I think, again, why take up a whole space in the consumer unit for something that can just be shoehorned into the rest of the lights? So if we put a new light up there anyway, it's going to have a flex on it. So all the new ones tend to, apart from the time guards. So we can take the flex in. We'll have to put a junction box in there anyway. May as well junction it into the main lighting while we're at it, mightn't we, James? Yeah. But you can see up there. What are they? The same size that hole.
I think that's where the old tail.
It's an hell of an hole.
Yeah, the old stuff came in.
Oh yes, yeah. You reckon it? Yeah.
Well, all the electrics are coming in the back of the house.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. I don't know whose idea of sine wave wiring.
I was going to say, I'll tell you something. It's not that protected, really, is it?
No.
You didn't know too much, put a ladder up against that too much. Out there,
you've got a mixture of buckle clips, and we got a hook there.
That is for ladders, isn't it? And they've just gone through that.
Yeah. So we'll have that down, put something new up over the door, probably centralise it to the door just so it looks better. We'll stick a new LED vance. What floodlights are you putting in, James?
They are I've just put 3 in, I should remember what they are. I think they're a BG make,
not the Lakikos.
Letico.
Yeah, right, okay.
You not like them?
I've had problems now. I don't know what their latest wares are like, but a couple of years ago we were fitting their stuff and a lot failed in a short space of time, causing us some warranty headaches. So we had to go and we were changing stuff like that had been put up 6 months before. So I'm sorry to give you the bearer of bad news.
No, I've had 3 at my house in the last 3 years since I lived there. They've not failed. I've put them up as soon as I moved there because I needed it because it was dark around the back. They've never failed.
I replaced one just last week.
When I use them, I can then tell someone I use these and stuff about them. But if they are failing, like you say, then
I don't know if they've improved, because some of the Lakiko stuff, they're eco battens, which are the fluorescent style battens, but with the removable tube.
All right.
They've been pretty good. We've fitted a few of them without any trouble, but the floodlights, I've not had a good experience with them, so I've been sticking with the LED vance. So far, no problems, although someone on Twitter just the other day said they'd replaced the Duff LED vance. So.
The thing is with LED technology and the way things are packaged up nowadays, something's going to fail, and everything's built not to last nowadays, don't forget. Everything's pretty much built to fail at some point.
I mean, that's the thing that they're saying that doesn't work. Some of these halogens have been in for 20 plus years and are still working. It's just you're changing them out for energy efficiency, whatever, and you're putting up something that seems to fail after 2 years or after 6 months, and the whole bally thing's got to be replaced. By an electrician as well, because you can't just replace the component part.
I've found that. So you go to one and it's been there 30 odd years, 20 odd years.
And it's still working.
It's still working, and maybe the customer will say, "I've just changed the bulb once" or something like that, and that's all it's ever had. And you put an LED up there, and you're kind of thinking, well, if you get 5 years, you get 6, you'll be alright.
Tell you what, that cat's got the right idea. Find a sunny spot. Yeah, you know what you're doing, don't you?
Alright, thanks. Cheers, Dino.
Cheers, Dino. What a nice guy.
Yeah. It's strange that he came on a horse.
I was going to ask, is that normal? Bit weird. Bit strange that you went to the bathroom with him for so long as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
But let's not go into that. Dino has very kindly extracted the fuse, which is 80 amp. Therefore, our 16mm tails are going to be all right.
Yeah.
He's put the carrier back in. Says he usually seals it back up, but he knows he can trust us. He knows that James Beck carries a lot of weight in this area. A lot of weight.
A lot of weight, but maybe not in this area.
In an area, anyway. So, yeah, he's also put an 80 amp label on the carrier for future reference. Very nice. Very nice. He's coming back later, so we are on the clock a bit because we've got to make sure that this is back on by 3 o'clock when he's coming to put it back in. But while we're here and before we start, let's have a look at some downlight, shall we, Mr. B?
Yeah.
Because they're another aspect of today's job. Downlights in the living room, of which there are many.
Millions.
Yeah. Not even in any kind of logical fashion. I mean, that's not central to that space there, and that's not central to that space there, but also it's close to the wall compared to that wall.
There?
What were they thinking? This is obviously previous owners' efforts. You've got two above the settee that aren't central to the space. It's a real scattergun approach, isn't it? I'm going to take my hat off. We're hoping to replace these today, but we haven't had a look behind them yet to see what we're in for.
This is what we're going to replace them with.
Yeah, I've gone for a GU10 can just because I'm not a great fan of integrated. What do you think about integrated?
I don't have a problem with them, especially like, I don't know, we discussed before, like the stuff that you can get, like bits of sealing residue coming through a can sitting on the lamp. The integrated does away with all that. I know what you're saying. Sometimes the integrated, the beam's too wide or something, or you've got maybe issues with them failing and you've got to replace the whole thing rather than just the lamp.
Yeah, that's my main issue. Is I just don't trust them. Just don't trust a lot of these integrated fittings. And the trouble is they go end of line as well. So one fails, and then you can't get one that's got the same.
That's right. Yeah.
Physical appearance to replace it.
And then you're torn. If you fit in 10, do you buy 12? And it's like there's two more for in case they fail or something. But I see the simple part of it, where it's just changing a lamp with this. So
making it GU10 means that you've still got a chance that it's going to fail, because a lot of this LED light and stuff just isn't living up to expectations, as we've talked about before.
No.
But at least it becomes a job the homeowner can easily do themselves.
Yeah.
Now these lights are ELD downlights from Cities. My local Cities has actually stopped stocking them, and they've started putting in Auroras, which look the same. The difference with the Auroras is that the bezel comes off. And I can see why Cities have done that, because they can then just keep a stock of cans and a stock of bezels, and you mix and match accordingly, as opposed to having to take up loads of shelf space with a bunch of these in white, a bunch of them in brushed chrome, a bunch of them in polished chrome. But the problem with the Aurora lights, and the problem with all the lights that are my local Cities, because I checked, they're all class 1. And if I'm going to fit a downlight, I don't know whether that's going to be going on to wiring that's earthed or not. Obviously some lighting circuits don't have a CPC. Some lighting circuits, the CPCs have been chopped off because they were installed by morons. I want a downlight that's got provision for a CPC, that will take 2 twin and earths, that will allow the CPC to pass through the can if a CPC is present, but is of itself a class 2 design, because you know it's going to go anywhere then. And this is obviously far from base for me. I don't want to be fluffing about Manchester trying to find where I can buy downlights. So I've come armed with these because they ought to be up for the task. Enough waffle, we should pull one of these down, should we not, Mr. Beck?
Pull one down,
would you care to do the honours, being the tall chap that you are?
I'm still going to stand up on this up.
These are LED lamps that have been retrofitted by the current homeowners.
The lamps have been fitted by these, but I don't think...
a Lordy, they're MR16s. And that's probably the problem, isn't it? Because I think they don't use them very often because, well, they're just too bright. They've got something like 12 downlights in this room. It's ridiculous. But I think there's probably a flicker problem as well. And as we all know, the flicker problem is going to be caused by the fact that that's a very swish torch there. The flicker problem is going to be caused by a halogen driver, isn't it? Not made to drive an LED.
That's right, yeah.
I'm getting a bit jealous of some of James's tools that he keeps on getting out in front of me.
And we've got you see that, an LED, well, we've got it's an N-light dimmable electronic transformer.
Minimum load on that?
load on that.
20 watts, I can see it down
Yeah,
here.
yeah, 20
It's in the
watts.
bottom right there. That's why you get, and the trouble is they're made for halogen, they're not really made for LED. A lot of the LED lamps won't stand them. One of these things.
And we've got what looks like 2.5mm
Amazon Basics.
2.5mm cable here.
Oh, that's interesting.
Brown and blue.
Exposed.
CPC cut off. Just going nowhere. Just don't need that.
Yeah. What kind of ceiling is it? Is it just a plasterboard ceiling?
Yeah, it's been overboarded. I think it's because there's lat and plaster up here, so it's that smash the original ceiling out, run a wire to it, and overboard it, and obviously.
So they've done
Doesn't matter the chaos you cause behind because it's all hidden with the overboarding afterwards, and the plastering and stuff.
And as you say, it's a very short run there, isn't it? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
There's a gap, isn't there, between the plasterboard and the...
There's a little gap, but it's
Oh, there's a batten there. They've battened off onto the ceiling.
yeah, I think the ceiling has been...
The ceiling's been lowered.
I think the original ceiling has been doing a bit of that.
Right.
And someone's come along to make it flat.
Right.
Battened it off, overboarded it, and ran the cable between.
Brilliant. So there'll be a junction somewhere where all these come back to.
There'll be a spider or octopus. It's just kind of like splayed out somewhere, and it's our job to find that, no doubt.
So at least it's one cable per light. It's one transformer per light, presumably, if that light's indicative of the rest. Should we have another one off and see what we can see?
I can't wait.
So these things are painted on. James has had to give that one a whack with the hammer, which has sort of damaged the...
So hope these don't whack my fingers.
Yeah, watch out for the mouse trapping. The thing is that there's going to be some plaster damage taking them down, but the new lights are going to be bigger and will hopefully cover that. Yeah, looking nasty. Is there a make on that?
Wicks. Wicks.
No surprise there. DIY special. Oh, there's some caramel on that one, old man.
Oh goodness. Yeah.
Check this out. That's what happens when your halogen lamp is too close to your wiring. These would have had a standoff on them originally, wouldn't they?
You
can see where it would have gone.
If you look on the back of the transformer, there's a picture here. I noticed on the other one. Untether it all. There's a picture of how they want you to wire it, how they want you to set the thing up, which is like no cables obviously touching the previous lamp, which, like you say, would have been halogen, which is probably why. Yeah, there's a void there between the original ceiling and this plaster.
So this is going to be quite a tricky job to do.
Yeah, there's 6 in a row here. Well, 3 in a row there, 3 in a row here for 6. But then there's also a random one over there, which does actually line through here.
Yeah, but it's fucking useless
And
lying at the
there's a
top of the
random
cupboard.
one right far in the corner over there. And again, it does line through with those two, but why would you have a light there, really?
Yeah, it's a shame that they're there, really, isn't it? And it's a shame that these are above the settee here, because they're the ones that really look out of line with the room. The weird thing is, I'd have taken a central line from the fireplace, because that's your focal point in the room, isn't it? Where that fireplace is. That is offline compared, well, you can see it on the camera there, compared with the picture light, which is in the middle of the wall. So you need that central point to work everything else off. If you're doing a downlight layout and someone's gone off cock, which is throwing everything off cock, because these lights are out compared to the back wall, these lights are much closer to the front wall. I don't know what they were thinking.
So we've got 2 straight lines but absolutely no symmetry.
Yeah, it just doesn't work with the room. And it's going to be a pain in the arse to change these out.
Luckily, I'm here.
Luckily there's 2 of us on the case, because we're going to have to start getting some work done now.
Yeah, let's get cracking.
Let's do it. Oh, there's a blank plate there, James. What do you reckon that is? Old Jimmy Beck
An old thermostat
on the blank plate special. I've got... you reckon? Yeah, it could be, couldn't it? Because the light switch over here. I'll tell you what I've got on Mr. Beck, seeing as we've been comparing our tools over the course of this weekend. How about that? NCV 69, I can know which it is now. Non-contact detector with laser measure. So look, I can tell you that wall over there is 3.692 metres away. Jolly handy, but non-contact as well. Would you like to try the non-contactedness on that wire in the wall, and we'll see if it's actually doing anything. Seems not. No, you'd have a nice rapid beep if it were doing anything. Oh, you see, yours has got. You've got one of those that you don't switch on, haven't you?
Yeah, pulled it out.
Yeah.
Pull it out and it works. This looks like a dog's cock, David.
That's what Nige says. I don't.
I mean,
I've not.
what a shape! What a strange shape.
Well, I'll have to defer to your and Nigel's greater experience with such things. Shit is underway. I've had to take the backboard off as well, otherwise there just won't be enough room in there to accommodate the depth of the new consumer unit. That backboard being the property of the Manchester Corporation Electricity Department, so don't tell them, James.
Make sure they get them.
Our little secret. If they want it back, they can have it back. This is what we're putting in. It's one of the SBS models. I've droned on about SBS before. I'm almost as droneable about SBS as you are about Vito Pro Pack.
Not quite that bad.
But just to say as well, SBS don't pay me to say nice things about them, but I do like their stuff. Now, you've not come across their stuff before, have you?
No, I've
James?
not. I've heard of them, but I've not installed anything of theirs yet.
I believe they started off close to this location. They started off in Manchester. The stuff's made in China, of course, as everything else is. It's the same. It's got it just there. It is made by DeLong or something. I can't remember the name of the company who knocks them out though, but they make stuff for other manufacturers as well. Comes with a tail gland, and because SBS offer a bespoke consumer units putting togethering service, this has been puttering togethered according to the specification I've required for this particular job, which is nice. So we have Type 2 surge protection off an MCB, double pole MCB. That's not a button there, like on the RCBOs that are adjacent to it.
That's a nice look, isn't it? Because it doesn't stand out like an RCBO would do.
Yeah, it all gives it a uniform look. Dual buzz bar, which means no RCBO fly leads, no neutral bar needed. Rear knockouts, because the cables in this will be coming down the wall and into the rear, and this is a very exciting, James. This is a new thing.
Yeah, this is a great thing. They've got this kind of, well, it's like a pillow, like an intermittent pillow coming all the way around.
It is,
attack it from all four angles, get into the back. Obviously, if fire breaks out or anything like that, it's acting as a seal.
It's intumescent, yeah.
Yeah, but if the fire breaks out, it'll hopefully withhold everything inside.
I've already fitted one of these. I did film it, but I haven't edited that together yet, and hopefully I will do eventually. So this video might go out before the video that I've already filmed on this. It's just the curious way things work. But you can see it's riveted on. The standoff is riveted on. As James says, intumescent seal, and this is great for retrofits, James, just because when you're sticking something onto the wall, you're not in control in a retrofit situation of which directions the cables are coming in from, and that's where a lot of board manufacturers let themselves down. It makes it difficult to get the cables coming into the various knockouts, or you have to drill the knockouts through, or you have to make some kind of entry. This one will just allow you to put the cables flat against the wall and then simply press this onto it, and it will sort of wrap around enough to
nice and soft.
Maintain the IP rating, maintain the fire rating.
Yeah.
Cables then come in through the rear knockouts that they've already lined for me. It just saves time on
They've done
site.
everything but fit it for you.
Yeah, if they could just pop along and fit it, it would save me time today to do it.
Also, the four corners as well, steel, so it is going to be a fix into the wall. But that's a great idea. That's certainly time saving. You don't have to mess around with cable routes and all kinds of stuff like that.
Now I've asked them to put these in descending order for me, so we start off with the 40 amp shower and then with the 6 amp lighting. Sometimes you do need to shuffle these around a little bit. Again, it depends on where the cables actually come in, but so if you take those blanks off, then we can actually see the dual buzz bar.
So that's serving up to the first one here. He's got line and back neutral.
Well, other way around. The neutral's
the neutral at the front. Sorry, yeah. Live at the bottom. Interesting they've called it live and not line, but I think it is actually technically live, isn't it? Because they've called that line.
Line and neutral are live according to BS 7671.
That's what I was just going to say. Well,
in definitions, part 2.
Yeah, both can be. So I think I can't wait to see up and on what cable route you choose.
It works, right? Yeah. Well, this is it. So my intention is to try and bring them. I'm going to have to extend some of them. There's a couple there still to cut off, but I'm hoping to sort of stick that up fairly high. Bring the cables down the back there. The tails I might bring in through the tails gland on the side. It's got one of these tails gland clamps, and again I've moaned about these before because if they're not in line with the cutout,
you can't always utilise them, can you?
Yeah, it's very difficult to shape your tails around them. Here we got 16mm tails which we're going to retain, so that ought to be okay. But yeah, I have spun them off into the bin in the past. What do you think, James? Would you fit one of those?
Definitely.
If you were doing CU changes?
One of the only things you could say is availability for future maintenance.
This is the argument that everyone always uses. Yeah, are you going to be able to get the spares?
Obviously,
in the future,
there's additional ways for adding certain circuits onto it or whatever. Like say they have a new kitchen or whatever, but it's still how accessible are these parts and where you're going to go for them, and is it like if this becomes a kind of 2-year fad and then they just get rid of it all?
Well, I've said this before.
That's an entire board change, isn't it? Just for
not,
the sake of one MCB.
Not necessarily. I've said this before. First of all, again, it's made by quite a large Chinese company that makes breakers. So SBS are the people who sell it in this country, but DL who make it, it's not something they're not some Fartbox company. They're a big manufacturer. They make stuff for other brands as well. And so I don't necessarily think they're going anywhere anytime soon. But they've been around for over 10 years now, SBS, selling this stuff. So it's not like it's something that came along yesterday.
Yeah, it's not new. Yeah.
But also, the nice thing, again, from our point of view, is if you need the spares, that they don't sell to the public. So that makes it a contractor job to get in, that's good for business, if you ask me. And also, if you did need to add additional circuits and for whatever reason you didn't want to or couldn't get hold of the SBS parts, all you potentially would have to do is put in a subboard if you wanted to. You could take a 32 amp socket circuit off there, move it to a subboard, and then use that 32 amp feed to feed the subboard, or something like that, or the 40 amp that's there for the shower, or something like that. You could send that off as a feed to a subboard potentially, or split the tails if you wanted. There's always options. But what it does actually stop you doing is it stops any of the cowboys from shoehorning in
any old make they found,
the old MK breaker they found on the van or whatever. Yeah, that's good. The next person who opens this up, and it won't be me because I won't be in the area, and it won't be James because you ask him to come look at this stuff and he tells you to piss off. But the next person who opens it up, maybe Southbank Electrical Services, they'll look at this and go, "What the hell?"
That's the first thing I noticed when you pop that off, the missing neutral bar, and you think, oh, what's going on?
The first one I bought, I've only been fitting these this year because I've only heard of them since this year. The first one I bought still had the neutral bar in, but they've obviously started taking them out now.
Well, the neutral's fed direct from the isolator.
Yeah, exactly.
So from the main switch, so it's it might catch on. I don't know, but like you say, if it's bespoke to the trade, and Joe Public can't go wandering into a
you won't find these in Wicks.
Yeah, well, then it'll hopefully stop a little bit of the kind of, I'll add on to a circuit, I'll do this, Some of them might look at that and run off.
If you're a legitimate contractor, there's absolutely nothing stopping you from opening an account with SBS and buying the spares. And I've bought a few extra breakers and RCBOs just to keep on the van. Just so that if any of my customers when I'm fitting these say, I'd like a new circuit for X, Y and Z, well, I'm in a position to put them in. The labelling's crap, as they always are. There's not enough circuit labelling, doesn't cover everything. For example, what did I notice? I can't remember what it was now. It's got PV and EV on there. There was something on there that I couldn't use last time. I always print my own labels off anyway with my label printer.
They are nice and clear though, I'll give them that. I mean, it doesn't mess about. The only thing is, obviously, if they're not going to... I like to read something rather than have a picture.
You see, I'm the other way around. I think that with the multilingual environment that we're in these days, a picture speaks 1,000 words.
Yeah, I suppose so.
But I think part of the problem is you might have a circuit, for example, that's just as kitchen sockets, where you've got some things that say ground floor sockets, something that says sockets, nothing that says kitchen sockets. That's what caught me out last time. And it all gets a bit... It's difficult for people who make the labels because there's so many variations and combinations. It's easier just to have a decent label printer and knock off your own.
Yeah, you're never going to.
As I will be doing today, I suspect. You've got a 2 colours label on there, which is nice. So you've got your RCD label. You've got the useless test and inspect label, which is useless because it doesn't give you any information about who is filling that in and what competency level they've actually got. But it's what it is. Most of it will go in the bin. but there's the odd label on there that I can use.
Bit more stuff.
They do actually supply a secondary circuit label sheet, which does have kitchen sockets on it, so that's the thing. I don't know why they do that, because that doesn't match the style of the writing on the other one. So if you mix and match them, it does look a bit, yeah. Yeah, it fucks with your feng shui, you know what I'm saying, James?
Yeah, they're bigger than the ones that come on the normal sheet, and there's actually two of them there.
Oh, well, there you go. Two times kitchen sockets, plus a bunch of blanks so you can write your own. Just easier to use a label printer, isn't it?
Oh yeah, especially yours.
Yes, my beast sort of thing, which I must get out later on. Right, I suppose I better get this buggering thing on the wall.
Yeah.
Let's get buggering. Although obviously the South Mank lads, South Mankers, we salute you. I've done a diligent job of inspection and testing here, and we've got all the data on the laptop over there. One thing I want to do before I go sticking the new board on is just to make sure that we're not going to have any troubles with tripping, because we're going from a non-RCD protected installation to one that's fully RCBO protected. So I'm going to do a couple of tests. Just to, their numbers, their IR numbers that they recorded on the day indicated that things were fine. I'm going to do something fairly similar, in that when they did their IR testing, I presume they went around and unplugged everything, because, well, you're supposed to, aren't you? Is that light getting in your way at all, James, or is it all right?
It's okay. Nice light, that.
It is a nice light. It's a Unilight. I wish I had a Unilight like that, but I don't. It's James's. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do an IR test just on these circuits, but unlike the South Mank lads, who would have gone around and unplugged everything because they wanted to test the fixed wiring, not the appliances hanging off it, I've left everything plugged in as it is today. I'm sure that, you know, there's stuff that's not plugged in that would ordinarily be. Of course, if the homeowners were here, they'd be plugging and unplugging stuff as they go about their day. But just as an array of stuff that is or isn't present at any one time, this is probably a good representation of how they're living, because we haven't gone around and unplugged everything. What I want to know is, basically, is there a faulty appliance that's likely to trip us up before the end of the day? So I'm going to go into this. I'm going to keep it on 250 volts. I'm not going to go into 500.
It's a fancy looking tester, Dave.
This is the Metrel MI3152. James hopefully will have a video coming up where we have a closer look at some of these testers, because we have a few with us today, do we not, Jimmy, old man? So I am going to use the 3152. I really must do something more swish with this, because all I've used it for so far is IR and continuity. I haven't done a lot with it. So I've connected line to neutral, and we're testing with respect to earth. Now, because line and neutral are connected together, the same voltage is going up both line and neutral at the same time. There's no potential difference across the loads, so there's nothing that should cause the loads that are still connected any trouble. And at 250 volts, even a surge protected board ought not to cause us any trouble. And all I want to see is, are we of a figure that's going to be okay for the RCD? 61.9, that's not going to trouble the RCBO when I put it in. It's going to be perfectly high enough. So I'm going to go around and do that for all the circuits, just to make sure that nothing comes back with a zero reading, because if it does, that indicates that perhaps something is plugged in today that wasn't plugged in when the South Mank lads turned up. And I just want to make sure that when I get this board on, we're not going to have a problem with things tripping off at the end of the day. Also, the South Mank lads, good chaps, highly recommended. Did things like the ring end to ends and got some sensible numbers. I just want to demonstrate something on the ring end to ends, because we have here imperial cable. Obviously this is an older installation. The cables here are perfectly fine according to the EICR that the South Mank lads performed. But because they're imperial cables, they're not quite the 2515 that we're used to seeing since metrification in the 70s. So if we go into continuity and get an end-to-end reading, I'm getting 0.4 on line. Hopefully the same sort of number on neutral. 0.39, beautiful. Now the CPC, ordinarily you would expect to be 1.67 times higher on resistance, because a 2515 cable, the CPC is 1.67 times smaller. You take 2.5 divided by 1.67, you get 1.5. Funny how it works, isn't it? So we would expect this to be 1.67 times higher, and if I So I'll move it over here. I'll fire up my old, or my rather new actually, communicator. So we've got 0.4 on line, and if it were 1.67 times higher, we'd expect a reading of about 0.67 to appear. Goodness knows if you can see that. 0.67 to appear on a 2515 ring piece. That's a lot higher, isn't it?
It's a lot higher.
That's a lot higher. And that's a lot higher because, as I say, this is imperial cable. It's not, the CPC is smaller than your 2515. It's actually near a 1 mil.
So it's a slightly different calculation.
A slightly different calculation. So you just have to bear this in mind when we're doing ring end to ends, is that if we're seeing the CPC higher, it's not necessarily a fault, not necessarily a problem, not necessarily indicative of a loose connection, trap sleeving, all that sort of stuff, fractured core, etc. It's also, it could just be that the cable has a smaller CPC than we're perhaps used to. And if we take, for example, our 0.4 line reading and multiply it by 2.5 instead of 1.67,
we've got an ohm.
we've got 1 ohm, yeah.
Which is pretty much on the dot of where that is earlier.
It is. So we're close enough. So this is indicating to us.
If you read that's a measurement, this is a calculation. So if you, to me, the way I see it is, it saves you a whole load of time thinking that you've got low resistance somewhere, or high resistance rather. You to do this calculation, check the age of the cables.
Yeah.
They would say, oh, these look, for instance, like you say, in the 70s.
Yes. Now, if this were a house built in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, something like that, you would look at that CPC reading and think, oh, I shouldn't have done that. You would look at that CPC reading and think, that's not right. That's not what I expect to see. But for a house of this age, and this is a 50s properties, I believe, it's obviously been rewired. There is evidence actually up here of some of the old rubber there. That's all flaking off.
Yummy.
You can see it. It's just coming off in my hand. So this would have been put in. This probably would have been rewired in the 70s. So when we're seeing this number, that's not a problem, that's not a fault, it's just indicative that the CPC is actually smaller than you would get on a modern cable. So another thing we can do, if we suspect that this is imperial cable and it's nearer 2.5 on the live wires, nearer 1 mil on the CPC, we can verify that if we've got another circuit here, because both of these circuits are obviously from the same era. One does sockets up, one does sockets down, so we should see exactly the same sort of results on here. So if I put my probes on line, we get 0.27, and on neutral we should get about the same sort of number again. 0.28. Okay, so let's take our line number of 0.27. If this is 2515 cable, if this is metric cable, we can multiply by 1.67. We should see something around the 0.45 mark. However, if this is imperial cable and the CPC is nearer 1 mil, then we will take our 0.27 and times it by 2.5, because 1 mil would be 2.5 times smaller than a 2.5 mil. And we should see something around the 0.67, 0.68 mark. So let's have a look, see what we get. .67, bang on. So there you go. Yeah. So we can definitely say these are imperial cables here. The CPC is 2.5 times smaller than the line. We can still use the 2.5 calculations for the live wires, but the CPC we have to assume is 1 mil, which is fine because again it's going on to RCBOs, so disconnection times will all be just fine in the event of an earth fault.
You can usually tell just by looking off a 1 mil count. Yeah,
if you're familiar enough with it, and it can be a bit awkward sometimes to tell the difference between, by sight anyway, the difference between a 1.5 and a 1 mil. But if you had a scrap bit of cable, you could probably have a closer look at that and hold it up and say, yeah, okay, I can see that there's slightly different meat on that potentially. It's a bit awkward. Half the time I have trouble telling a 4 mil from a 6 mil and all that kind of stuff. You have to think, what is this really? I've verified that the calculations that the Southmank Heroes put on their report is indeed all good. So we should be able to get this board on, and there shouldn't be any surprises tripping things off, unless James fucks up doing the downlights.
I won't be doing that. Right, cheers Dino.
Nice one, mate.
Nice one.
Thank you very much. What a top chap. And look at that, I don't know if you can get that on camera, but 12 minutes past 3, so he came back at about the right sort of time. We said we'd be done at 3 o'clock. He came back at 3 o'clock and we are back in business. The place is absolutely trashed. I've said before, I don't like doing consumer unit changes. It's just one of those stressful things you have to get done before it gets too dark and everything, but boom, got a lot of tidying up to do. Anyway, it's up there on the wall, don't look at it too closely. My wiring is horrible inside consumer units. I don't know how these people do them neat, I say this every time. And again, it's more a case of, let's get it thrown up quick. Yes, I do realise it's on.
Sticking your hand in there, David.
I know, yeah, I'm sorry. Obviously it was off when Dino was resealing and doing his fuse and stuff.
Interesting, he left on a horse again.
I don't know what's going on there. Maybe it's a weekend thing.
Yeah.
He's not normally around at the weekend, I don't suppose, but it's on, it's functional. The only other things we've got to do obviously is finish off the living room lighting and put up a new outside light. And I've got to cut off these old wires at the side as well. So there's a few old wires to cut off in there that are still not doing much. The blue connector, the clip connector, that's so I can connect the outside light to the circuit. Rather than hard wiring it to a junction, I figured, I may as well wire it into something like that the new light can plug into and be disconnected from if it ever needs to be, because I, again, do these things last. But we need to finish the downlights, don't we, James? We need to tidy up, get stuff all back into ship shapeness. Where's my my Klein non-contact detector? Where's that?
Your dog cock.
It doesn't look like a dog's cock.
Dog cock. It's upstairs. It's in one of the bedrooms, I'm sure it is.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, I shall take that off you and go find, young man.
I've got tidying down here.
Very good of you, mate. Very good of you. What's cock? Listen to. Camera down. Never get anything done if I'm holding that damn thing. Right. Where are you? I hate losing tools on site. I'm a bit of a bugger for doing it as well. Old Fido here's got the right idea, hasn't he? Find yourself somewhere warm and comfortable and have a nap. Wish I'd thought of that. There we go. Don't want to lose that. Expensive and useful. Although, I don't know why people keep telling me it looks like a dog's cock. I've no experience of such things, of course. Unless, I don't know, is this wrong? It might be. You take that, old man.
What the hell happened?
Don't ask.
The state of you.
Moving on, how are your lights in here? It looks like you're actually done, old boy.
Yeah, we are.
Very good stuff.
All on. Unfortunately, they're all in the same position, but at least all working. One white as well.
Double insulated cans, fire rated. Is it better than before we started? Yes.
No, I was just about to fit that dimmer.
Oh, if I take the camera, you can show the dimmer, old man.
Very light dimmer. We've got the normal. The switch is behind the door, which is not ideal.
No,
obviously, in the normal situation, the door would open this way, or the switch should be on the other way. But we've changed the doors around, so yeah, we're gonna throw the Very Light on there, so they can have even more romantic lighting than that.
Pro.
Yeah, it is the Pro. Yeah. So it's 4 LEDs. So
very nice. Right, well, I'm going to start Operation Label Up and Tidy Up. You take that, old boy.
Yeah.
And I'll go and do something more useful. God damn it.
Smells of shit in here.
Outside light is up. Nice little advanced model, as I was saying. James is ready for the lights to go on. He's just been putting the dimmer switch on. It's a fucking thing of beauty. It's an SBSCU.
What a place to put a light switch. Or a door.
Let's see some dimming action, my boy. Oh, yeah.
Scene there.
Oh, yes.
No flickering.
I'm a bit worried about being in a room with you with the lights dimmed down, James. James has had to fit a spacer on there because it's a 16mm knockout box, and of course it's not very easy to stick a dimmer in on a 16. Some of them will fit, but it's better to have a 25mm box or to space it off the wall. It's never the prettiest thing to space them off the wall, but then it's a plastic box that's stuck to the wall. Yeah, you're kind of stuck with what you're stuck with, really, aren't you? You've done a grand job, James. A grand job.
Apart from the locations, I think everything's looking.
Yeah, well, that was never our bag, was it?
Now as well.
Mr. Whippy.
I'm gonna go and get one.
Does he take like contactless?
I think he gets paid in cigarettes round here.
Is he actually selling ice cream or is he selling drugs?
He probably sells cigarettes.
Well, I do believe our work here is done, old boy, electrically.
All done.
Apart from some final
Couple of readings.
checks and balances and stuff.
Very neat, very nice.
4 o'clock. What time did we start? We started about noon, didn't we? Look at James's. I do like that.
Yeah. And it's actually, I thought I'd take it off when I do all my downlights, and it's actually withstood quite a bit of dust today.
I've got one of those. Mine's got the flat panel because it's the metal sort of.
Oh, right.
But it's just too nice to wear for work, which is a shame because I so often need a calculator, my maths being atrocious as it is. And there's so many times I'm multiplying something by 1.67 or whatever. I would like the idea of a calculator on my wrist, and I'm not going to buy a smartwatch. I'm a Casio aficionado. I had a smartwatch, but now I only wear Casios. I'm a Casio girl. Not interested in anything else. Not interested at all.
We better tell you.
I know, it's a place to fucking tip.
Yeah, it is.
I thought I could go down the pub, I suppose, and leave you to it.
Oh, great. Thanks a lot.
That's not a bad idea.
Nice, clean tools over here. The state of it in here.
All the tools you brought, loads of them. It's extra stuff to pack away, isn't it? Speaking of which, I'm going to start loading up the van, and then I'm going to point its bonnet in a southerly direction, young man.
Okay, David.
Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Joe Beck.
No probs.
Son of a bitch.